welcome to a brand new year and a brand new Ghana Tonight. I'm Kemeni Amano. Let's take a look at our top stories. Association of Senior High School Head Teachers warns members not to reopen schools as it strongly advises the Ministry of Education to postpone back to school dates until government pays its debts to the schools. Also coming up tonight, Judge rules to hear mandamus application brought on by the NPP, but leaves ruling on the substantive case of ensuring the EC performs its duties in respect of the 4 constituencies for later. I'll explain. 6 days to the investiture of John Dramani Mahama and the new NDC government. All the party's plans leading up to January 7th. I've got you covered. We are live on TV3 on 392.7 FM. We're also live on Facebook, on x.com, on YouTube, and on 3news.com. If you'd like to be a part of our program, with your comments, your questions, and thoughts, use the hashtag GhanaTonight. Let's bring you Ghana Brief now.
Residents of Tema Central, Okaikwe Central, Ablekuma North and Techiman South would have to wait a little longer to know with certainty their members of Parliament elect. An Accra High Court on Wednesday listened to legal arguments from lawyers of the NDC and the NPP and set Saturday, January 4 for its ruling. The NDC is of the view that the suit must fail.
This morning's ruling, what it means is that we are likely to have 276, judicial review, at least 276 judicial review, even before the EC Gazette reports, or even before declarations are made. Because according to the ruling, at any time that you think that a public official has done something untoward, you may bring an action for judicial review in the nature of mandamus. So you can imagine the challenge that this ruling, if it's allowed to stand, would cause to our democracy.
Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia says he is confident that God has a greater plan for him in future. He was speaking during the 31st Watch Night service at the Lighthouse Chapel International. Dr. Bawumia encouraged Ghanaians to embrace hope and gratitude as they step into 2025.
We have gone through an election, and I want to thank God for his blessings to myself and to the country, Ghana. The book of Thessalonians, chapter 5, verse 18, tells us that in all things give thanks to God. And so for what he has done for us, we are giving thanks to him. I know and I believe that God has a plan for me for greater and better things in the future.
President-elect John Dramani Mahama maintains his vision of running Ghana with a lean and efficient government structure is intact. He's been promising to tackle corruption while building a Ghana of hope and aspiration.
My vision for our great nation includes a lean, efficient government responsive to your aspirations as a proud Ghanaian. We will work tirelessly to correct the outgoing administration's many wrongs, tackle corruption with dogged determination, and reduce excessive government expenditures. Each citizen's voice will be heard, and together we'll build a Ghana that reflects our collective hopes and dreams, the Ghana we all want and voted convincingly for.
calls for the reappointment of the principal of the St. John Bosco College of Education in Navrongo have increased. The latest is coming from the paramount chief of the Kologo traditional area, Naba Asobayir V. This follows similar calls by the Navropio and students of the college for an extension of the principal's tenure after having served 4 years.
If he's having a problem with the school children or his colleague workers who are working under him, that one fine. But nobody is talking about him doing any bad thing in the school, and all at a sudden he's being driven away as if he's not a Ghanaian or he's not qualified. The man is more qualified to handle the place. He's a professor by all standards, and I think he can continue the development of the school.
The general public is encouraged to take in a lot of water and maintain proper body moisture in this dry weather condition, as the country remains prone to experiencing the seasonal cerebrospinal meningitis outbreak from this month. Health officials say they are on high alert for any possible outbreak of the disease in the country. Dr. Franklin Esiedu Bekwin is the Director of Public Health at the Ghana Health Service.
Let's make sure that we're drinking a lot of water. And make sure that you are applying a lot of cream, a moist cream, if it's good to share better. And drink a lot of water. Yes, and then if your eyes are dry, you can wear some sunglasses. But I think that we will start getting cough and things like because of the dryness of the weather. That's what I'm saying, that when you drink more water, you're not likely to get the cracks. Yes, and so more water, and then we're applying a lot of moisturizers on your skin to prevent dryness of the skin.
Ghana Brief there for you. Remember, this is our very first episode for 2025. You're welcome to the very first one if you're just joining us. We're live on TV3. We're also live on 392.7 FM. Let's get into our very first business for 2025. The NPP's mandamus application sails through in court today, but ruling on the substantive matter reserved for January 4th to decide whether the EC should be compelled to produce results. Tonight, parliamentary candidates of the NDC caught in the legal battle for their legitimacy as MP-elects say they are optimistic the court will rule in their favor. Now, that ruling, the High Court hearing this case, says will be delivered on January 4th. The outstanding constituencies, Tema Central, Okankwe Central, Ablikuma North and Techiman South, were originally announced, but the EC decided they were not legitimate. Here's a quick recap. Indeed, you recall that in the case of Tema Central, the declaration was made in favor of the NDC's Abi Bright as against Charles Forson of the NPP. We saw similar also in Okankwe Central. But let's start off with what we saw in Tema Central.
The results are ready to be declared. And the result is as follows. The NPP candidate in the person of Charles Forson had 18,421 votes. The NDC candidate in the person of Abi Bright had 18,529. 27,308. By this result, I hereby declare Madam Ibi Bright.
And that is the declaration the Electoral Commission says was made under duress. But not only that, the wrongful person, not the returning officer for Tema Central, makes that declaration. Let's take you now to Ablekuma North, where a declaration was made in favor of the NDC's Irabna Obing. However, the Electoral Commission raised issues with that as well. Quick recap.
In polling stations and NPP had 27,170 and 28,151. On that note, I declare Eura Abna as the MP selected.
Then the issue of Okaigwe Central as well, declared in favor of the NDC's Baba Sadiq, subsequently overturned by the Electoral Commission. We know that the Supreme Court has also overturned that move the Electoral Commission made, which is why this mandamus application is in court. But let's take a look at what happened in Okaigwe Central.
Okaigwe Central constituency. Patrick Yabuama had 14,949. Abu Baba Abdullah Sadiq had 15,383. Total valid votes is 30,332. Rejected ballot is 130. Total vote cast 30,462. So from this election, this represents 78% of the election held at Okaigwe Central. So from this result, Baba Sadiq has been elected Member of Parliament for Okaigwe Central. Thank you. 2024.
And then the fourth constituency, Teshiman South, where a similar, declaration was made. But of course, we know what have happened since then. But let's talk about this mandamus application in court at the moment. Judgment Day has now been set, it's been announced because the presiding judge overnight decided the NPP's mandamus application before him had merit, despite the NDC's objections. The judge will now rule on whether or not the Electoral Commission should be compelled to do its job of announcing winners for the 4 outstanding constituencies, or decide that the job is done and dusted. However, the PCs are hopeful that the court will rule in their favor come January 4th. Let's take a listen to Baba Sadiq.
Let's see how Saturday goes. We wait for the ruling on Saturday, but we're very confident that with the case that we put before the judge and the strength of the authorities we cited, I mean, this shows that this will be unfair.
We can now also hear from Ablekuma North's Irabna Obing.
I have no doubt that the will of the people will still stand. God will give it.
We've been trying to get to the bottom of the implications of this case. Justice Shremsai is a member of the legal team of the NDC who's been speaking to pressmen and women after the court accepted that mandamus application from the NPP. Let's take a listen.
If anything that happened in court, including the affidavit, is anything to go by, it's clear that the EC has not refused to grant their demand. In fact, the EC itself is willing to grant their demand of recollation. So clearly, that element which is fundamental is missing. in some of the constituencies, you realize that even when you read what they call a demand, particularly the one with the one written by Kaikwe Central, yeah, the one written by the MPP Patrick Boama. It says that he's seeking, he's asking the EC to revoke the declaration. Clearly, that is not a demand to collate or recollate to start with. So that is not a demand in respect of which the mandamus application was brought. So we are strong in our belief that considering that the demand was not made to recollate, then a mandamus cannot be made or cannot be issued for a recollation. And if you look at the other places, serious allegations of fraud were made. Now, how do you expect a process as this judicial review process to investigate and interrogate questions of allegations of fraud, even fraud and forgery and falsification? You saw from the argument made by my very good friend Eduji that even in matters of, even if you bring a case in a rate and you allege fraud and you allege criminality, the court would have to particularize the elements of the allegation and call witnesses to be cross-examined. So we are wondering how the court is going to, decide such serious allegations on an application without witnesses being called. And well, the judge has, is giving Saturday as when he will give the ruling. We expect to see the judge's position on this.
Just the SREM side there, bringing it close to that issue. But while we have all been focused on the elections, we've been focused on the aftermath of the election, even looking ahead into the investiture, we've been following the matter in court. Our senior high school education in the country, particularly public ones, those that are assisted by governments, could be in jeopardy. The big question parents and students will have to grapple with tonight is whether or not our senior high school students can return to school January 3rd. That's 2 days away. Tonight, we get to the bottom of this question and why that may or may not be the case. Don't go away. You might want to stay on for this one because senior high school education could be in limbo if government fails to act and act fast too. That's because the Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools are strongly advising the Education Ministry and the Ghana Education Service against reopening schools on the 3rd of January. That's only 2 days away if you're looking at your clock. The Association of Head Teachers say government has turned a blind eye to unpaid fees needed for smooth administration of these schools. In their latest letter addressed to members, CHAS says in that statement that they strongly advise against any member departing from the directive they have given to their members. But I want to show you a bit more of those in that letter to the members of CHAS across the country. Let's take a look at that now. The National Executive Council, CHAS, says at an emergency meeting convened on Tuesday, December 31st, 2024, decided, among other things, that the Ghana Education Service and the Ministry of Education be strongly advised against the reopening of schools on 3rd January 2025 after the Christmas break. The reasons accounting for this recommendation, which is most important to you watching us right now, include or were contained, it says, in earlier letters written to the Honorable Minister of Education through the Director General dated 12th August 2024, 13th November 2024, and 20th December 2024. Each of the content of these letters we have discussed with you here on Ghana Tonight. What have they been asking from government? They were requesting from government to make good on the payment due them. They've been asking for government to make due on payment for some of the goods and services that they need for school. Parents and guardians will be notified, they say, through all appropriate channels available to CHAS and especially through the regional branches of CHAS and the various school PAs, the parent associations, of the decision as captured in paragraph 1 above. The letter goes on to say that this unfortunate decision was arrived at following the inability of appropriate authorities to heed to the several requests of the leadership of CHAS on the issues captured in the paragraph above. And I'm hoping to share just a little bit more on those issues with you just before we get into the proper matter. But let's finish with this. Leadership wants to inform its members that another reminder, let's go back. Another reminder has been forwarded to the Honorable Minister, which means that even as they are addressing this letter to their members, including, the Parents Association, they have also sent a copy of this to the Minister of Education, Yahweh Duchum, and the Director General of the Education Ministry on this same matter. It's unclear what the response has been. Perhaps we should know the date on this letter so we can count how long the ministry has been silent on this. Leadership appeals to all members to take note of the content of this correspondence and adhere to them. Any action contrary to this directive will be considered as a betrayal of trust to the cause of CHAS. Be assured that you will be duly notified on the next line of action. When things are streamlined, we count on a usual cooperation. The original date on this letter is the 31st of December. 31st of December, some of us were at work. Not everybody went to work, so we want to believe that the minister perhaps hasn't seen this yet. But I can assure you that that is not an excuse, because according to CHAS, this issue has existed since 2021. Let's go through the timelines now. We know, I've already mentioned that they've talked about how they've sent letters latter part of 2024 from August, November, and then December 20th. Then this latest one. So these are their demands, consistent throughout all the 4 letters they have sent. Release outstanding payments for recurrent fees owed to schools since the 2021 academic year. Refund monies meant for carton food items from regional zonal food centers, among others. Ensure the immediate supply of adequate food items. And these are some of the, the demands that have been outlined in their letters. The challenges this poses to them is that because of the debts owed and the non-payment of the recurrent fees, with the exception of exam fees, for some reason, government pays the exam fees, but all the things that lead up to the exams, has got school heads in a very uncomfortable situation with their suppliers. They tell us that in some cases, some school creditors are threatening legal action against the school. You might remember this because we've treated it here on GhanaTonight before. They also tell us that when it comes to food and perishable items, some key food items have not been supplied to the schools since the inception of the 2024-2025 academic year. Now, if you take note of the 2024-2025 academic year there, you can understand why CHAS is saying that they cannot allow the students to come in January 3rd, 2025, because the opening of this term is part of the 2024-2025 academic year. So if they go in, there is still no money to cut their food to them and pay for some of their debts. Then the last one, this has made the feeding of students very difficult for school management, and it's now even creating some disciplinary problems and uneasy calm on school campuses. You can understand, when you're hungry, you can be angry. But let's get into the issues right now. I wanted to share the timelines with you. Perhaps we'll do that a little later. The plan for our discussion today is to speak to Peter Nochu Kotoi, or Kotoi Nochu, who is the education ranking member in Parliament. We'll speak to him in a tad, but right now let's talk to Dr. Peter Anti-Party, Executive Director of IFES. Doc, good evening to you. Recall the last time we talked about this. Again, it was both you and then the Honourable Member of Parliament, and we had even joked about how I had Peter and Peter on this discussion. But here we are again. Government hasn't heeded to this. What do you make of what's happening?
Thank you very much, and good evening to your viewers. I think we are experiencing a neglect of responsibility from the outgoing government, and I think it is unfortunate that the latter days of the administration, these issues are coming up. first and foremost, I would want to say that although some of us are applauding Charles for coming out boldly like this, I think that in the near future, they should bring out these issues. They shouldn't allow it to pile up to the latter part of an administration before they bring out these issues. Because if these issues were brought up from 2021, 2022, we would have helped in discussing it and then pushing for government to do the needful. But unfortunately, they sat on it and for reasons best known to them, they've kept some of these things to their chest till the last days of this administration, which is making it difficult for any urgent action to be taken, because the government basically have about 4 days to leave power. And I think that they are taking the position that they do not really care what Charles would want to do. So far as schools are supposed to reopen on the 3rd of January, they will not comment on what is really happening. That's the same attitude that the government took with the WAEC issue. And as at now, although WAEC has released the results, the chunk of money that they owe WAEC that I don't think they will be able to commit to until 7th January. So that is what is happening. I just hope that Charles would be resolute on their position and find ways and means not to cause the reopening of the schools, because you can't run the schools without the needed things that you have in order to feed these students, in order to ensure that there's daily running of the activities on campus. You can't run this school when you don't have these monies, and you have borrowed and you have asked people to support to this point. Now you can't even go back to them. You already owe them. So if you reopen the school, you are just going to have challenges with the students, and if you are not careful, you might have some of these disturbances happening in our school. So I think that it is important they stick to their words and hold on with the reopening, and then government should do the needful within this short period so that the students can go back to school.
Very well. Peter, I'm going to rush you a little bit. We've just been joined by Peter Nochu Kotwe, Akachi North MP and ranking member on Parliament's Education Committee. Honorable, good evening to you. The last time we spoke about this issue, there were assurances that the committee was going to look into this. Questions were going to be asked of the Education Minister, your colleague in Parliament. Why? What happened now? It would have appeared, there hasn't been any progress. What happened?
Well, thank you very much. Tomorrow, Parliament is reconvening, and we have some outstanding issues to be resolved. And I think the issue of release of money to senior high schools will come up. Basically, it was about WAEC, but with this new development, I think tomorrow this matter will come up again. The committee has not gotten anything referred to it, but once you have an outstanding issue on the floor, it could be part of it tomorrow. It is rather unfortunate that government is failing in its obligation to the schools. So for now, it will be difficult for me to state any position until tomorrow when Parliament resumes and this matter is raised.
Very well. Honorable, considering the timelines involved, the students are supposed to go to school in 2 days on January 3rd. I know for sure that we spoke about this matter about a month ago. Between then and now, you're telling me your committee didn't do anything about this?
You see, when you have issues referred to you by Speaker, then you have the mandate to make certain recommendations or take certain steps. Charts have not, and it's an issue that has been on air. So we only ask the Ministry of Education what they have done about it. And our information is that, as we speak, nothing much has been done about it. We know from information available is that they have some quantity of foodstuffs with which they can feed the students. What I am told is maybe money for perishables. So I think the ministry should be in a better position to tell us what is happening. And let's hope that tomorrow when Parliament resumes, the Speaker will give us the opportunity to raise this issue for discussion.
We can only hope, because we know that Parliament resuming tomorrow, there are specific issues that have been long-standing also that need to be discussed. We can only hope that the issue of CHAS can be squeezed in it. But we know that the children are supposed to go to school on January 3rd. Now, CHAS is saying that let's not reopen school yet. It leaves, education at the secondary level or the senior high school level in limbo. What do you say to that?
Well, tomorrow and Friday are 2 different days. I think within 48 hours, if government is serious, something can be done so that schools can reopen on Friday. So that's why I'm saying that let's hope by tomorrow the minister will tell us something when the matter comes up. I don't want to a situation where I will give a false hope that the committee is going to make sure that by tomorrow or Thursday, monies are released so that the students report back to school. So let me leave it up to tomorrow on the floor and see what comes out of it.
I can understand where you sit on that. It seems like a very tricky situation, but it's even trickier when you think of the fact that a new government, your party, will come into office on January 7th. If the current administration continues to turn a blind eye with the issues surrounding, the reopening dates and monies owed these assisted secondary schools, it means your government will inherit this. What advice do you give?
Well, I think Charles has now realized that when things are hard, you need to talk. And I hope they will keep it up. In any case, I can promise that our government, when it comes to office, will not allow such things to happen. You cannot refuse to give money to schools for the feeding of students. As a party, we have decided that we're going to decentralize the procurement of food items and other materials that are needed in our senior high schools. So our policy or our approach is going to be different. We are not going to centralize everything in Accra, but monies will not be released to the schools in time. We are for decentralization, and I think that will better the situation as we see it now, so that the money is released at specific times, either at the beginning of the term or wherever the agreement will be, so that we don't witness these things every day where school heads will have to threaten to close down schools or not to allow students to reopen. We will make sure that this does not happen.
I see. Honorable, we'll leave it here with you. Thank you so much for your time. Let's continue the conversation with Dr. Peter Anti, who is Executive Director of IFES, a watcher of our education sector here in Ghana. Doc, you heard the Honorable Member of Parliament. Again, it's unfortunate that I'm going to say that his responses are very similar to what we heard about a month ago when we discussed this issue. But your take on this matter?
Yes, I don't want to say that the Education Committee has also failed the students and the parents and Ghanaians in whole, because as you indicated, we've had this conversation a month ago. And if there's any power that they have to force the minister to commit to paying or releasing some amount of money to these schools, they would have done that. In fact, they were waiting to deal with the WAEC issue when they sit tomorrow, which has already been dealt with. So you can imagine that even with the WAEC issue, with all the agency that was associated with it in terms of release of the results and the universities waiting and postponing reopening and all that, they were waiting for tomorrow to even address that. It means that there's no agency in their handling of this issue, and it is very unfortunate. And for me, it's very unfortunate that the government is acting this way, especially towards the end of its administration. I really don't know what mechanisms and processes are available that one can use to ensure that they do the needful. And for the assurance that we are getting that the incoming government would take steps to ensure that the schools are reopened. I think we can take it, but we have to understand that the government would also have to sit and audit some of these claims that are coming from Charles. And it's going to take a longer period for them to really appreciate the change, the challenges in the sector, because they might not be so much sure of what is really happening on the ground whilst they are going through the transition period. So for me, I think that the best thing is for all Ghanaians and parents to call on the government, I mean another government, to do some sort of payment within the next 48 hours so that the schools will reopen. But I would always agree with Charles. If they don't get the money, they should not reopen the schools, because we are putting the lives of these innocent ones into danger. There are no foods on campus. There are no money to run the daily administrative activities of these institutions. And I don't think that anybody will be happy to just send the word to school when the situation is like this. And I'm not the one saying it. Charles is saying it, that they cannot run the school if it reopens on 3rd January. So why are we forcing them to reopen the schools when they don't have what they need to run to reopen the schools? I think that if the government has not released the money as demanded, they should not go ahead and reopen the schools.
Very well. But I want to take you a few steps back. When you said that the incoming government, if the situation persists, the incoming government should audit the claims Charles is making, what exactly do you mean?
Well, I think that they need to understand the state of our education before they can make commitments. At best, what they can do is to clear some of these arrears for Charles to go ahead with the reopening, but they would still have to understand the situation. You should also understand that now we don't even have the budget, the interim budget for the first 3 months that the government is supposed to spend. So spending is also an issue, and we are told that that can be done when, if they don't do it tomorrow, I mean, as Parliament says, then that can be done when there's a handing over is over, and then the vice president would. So you see the time limit. The government, the incoming government, do not have the capacity to spend, and I don't foresee them being able to pay any arrears within the next 10 or 15 days. And that is why I'm saying that the onus lies on the current government to make do the right thing by paying or releasing some amount of money, like they did with WAEC, if not all, some amount of money that will enable Charles to reopen the schools. But if they are not able to do that, then the blame should be on their heads whilst we enter into a next administration, hoping that they will be able to do magic and get the students back on school. But Charles should not reopen the schools when they do not have the requisite resources to run the schools.
Very well. Doc, I'm going to come back to you because, again, both you and the Honourable Member of Parliament indicated that Charles has itself to blame for where it is today. But the truth they have shared with us is that they have been talking about this since August of 2024. So I want you to, relate the two issues and then explain to us why you think Charles is to blame for where they find themselves today. But first, let's take a listen to Nat as they tell us why government must consider expanding the sources of funding for secondary education in this country. Take a listen.
Good. Number one, where we are now, we should no longer allow education to be used as a political football during election years. That is number one. And then number two, the only way to correct that, if I have a legislation where we determine how we intend to fund public education in Ghana, now, some of the sources of getting the money, when we are all agree that we need to legislate on how to source for funding for basic education in Ghana, we can look at the issue of what they call VAT. Can we add 1% VAT, add 1% point of it to the current VAT that we are taking, so that that money that will come out of it, that money can go fund public basic education. The second thing we can also do is that you look at currently the property rate that we are collecting. There have been some kind of scenario that has been done that a lot can be generated there. So through the assembly, the money that will be generated, certain percentage will have to be paid towards basic education. The other thing, the third thing we want to recommend is the oil money, the oil we are getting. Look, we cannot, we always, even though we say the ABF, the Annual Budgetary Allocation Fund, where a certain percentage is allowed for the oil money to be used to fund the budget, it must be specific. That particular money should be directed and must be specific, that must go into education, or certain percentage of it must go to fund basic education. The other one too that we can do is that development partners, our development partners, all of them can contribute to basic education, fund as one of the sources of funding basic education in Ghana. The other sources also that we can get it done, when we were in basic schools, when we were in Saito, our parents always organize PTA meeting every time. It is PTA meeting, parents, teacher association, they always meet to discuss issues. So after discussing the issue, they do what we call the SPAM. After that, they do what we call the SPAM is School Performance Appraisal Meeting, where parents discuss all the challenges, concerns, and how to improve them. Out of the SPAM, they develop what we call the SPIP, School Performance Improvement Plan. So once we have developed that one, the parents and all the stakeholders will contribute to it. And I think that it is very, very important to encourage that one. And also the old boys, alumni, also organizing open days in all the schools. All these things can go to ensure that we have serious funding and we have a good and regular source of funding for basic education in Ghana. And I think when we do that, WAEC will not come and tell us that we are owing, and because of that, our results will not be released. School feeding, those who feed our children will not come and tell us that we don't have money, so the children cannot be fed, or they are going on strike. That will not happen.
Nas Thomas Musa Tanko there. But we still have with us Dr. Peter Anti. Doc, listen, Thomas may have been talking in reference to basic education. But perhaps the expanded question there will be, if this was adopted for, the senior high school level as well, what impact could it have on our ability to deliver a free and effective education?
Well, you realize that, interestingly, the NDC is talking about a sustainable funding for secondary education, and I think that there have been periods that we have had conversations about how sustainable this free SHS is, and I have said that the challenge of sustainability is the most important threat that faces the policy, and so there seems to be some understanding from the point of view of the NDC that they should get some sort of funding which is sustainable to help deal with the various challenges that have engulfed the policy. And I think that is what Musa is also advocating for. Just that for him, he's looking at basic education. So what the NDC can do will be to expand the funding to cover pre-tertiary education. So you can have a policy of funding pre-tertiary education, which will include the secondary, technical schools, and your basic schools. I think that is a sure way to go, so that most of the challenges that we are talking about, all of them is money, is resources. And so if you have a sustainable source of funding, that would help deal with the challenges that we are facing. Again, we should understand that the NDC is saying that they will call for a stakeholder meeting that would seek to look at all these proposals in a way that will ensure that we benefit from the policy of the free senior high school. I think when that conversation is carried out, most of these things will be walked through the policy process, and we'll know whether they will be able to stand the test of time. But I think that the biggest problem of the free senior high school, which we have said from day one, is funding. The very moment you're able to get the adequate funds for running this particular policy, we are good to go. And I agree with Musa, we should extend it to pre-tertiary, the pre-tertiary education sector.
Let's come back to the more immediate concerns that you have raised. That Charles is to blame for where they are today. Why do you insist so?
Well, I speak to a lot of headmasters and heads of these secondary institutions, and they will tell you that they are in their need of resources. They complain always. Now, we realize that when individual heads complain, it becomes a problem, because then the authorities can go after these individual heads. But you have an organization called CHAS. No authority, no manager of our education system can go after CHAS when CHAS comes together as a body to demand what they need in order that they'll be able to run this institution. Now, if you look at their letters, you see that some date back to 2021. Since 2021, or even before 2021, most of us have been complaining about the challenges that these free senior high school have been going through. We have not received the support of CHAS, who are basically the implementers of the policy at the various institutions. We have not received that. And when you go and you talk to them individually, they share their frustration. So I was thinking that CHAS as an organization, as an institution, as an association, could come together and speak with one voice like they are doing now. If they did this in 2021, we wouldn't be talking about postponing reopening in 1st January 2025. But for reasons best known to them.
And you know, Peter, as we speak now, both the Education Ministry and the Ghana Education Service have not contributed to this discourse. They have refused to respond to our queries of any sort or invitation to engage in this discourse. And so being quiet, it's a holiday. We only then have tomorrow to take a decision whether or not some monies will be released. Perhaps a miracle will be pulled, like it was done in the case of WAEC after a few days had gone by. But let's see how this plays out. What I'm concerned now about is, as a parent, and if you look at that letter, the head teachers addressed the letter also to Parents Association of the school as they advised them to keep their children at home. But here we are without official communication also from the ministry. Where does that leave parents? What should they be doing to help the situation or not, maybe?
For me, I think if I'm a parent, I'll be just listening to CHAS and no other person, because they are running the schools, and if they say that if you don't give us the resources, we can't reopen, I will listen to the parents. But let me say this. You see, we should not get to a stage where people who have been put in positions to serve us act as if they are doing us a favor. By this time, the Minister of Education, the Ghana Education Service, and those responsible should be speaking to this issue. They won't speak to it because, of course, they've lost elections, and most of them are doing their handing over notes, and they think that they are not responsible for the mandate that was given to them. But you have the mandate up to 7th January, and you are responsible to explain to, you have the responsibility to explain to parents what is happening. But they won't talk, as you are indicating, they won't talk, and that's how they've treated us all this while. They will not address issues that borders on us, our children, our sisters, our brothers, are in the education sector. It is not supposed to be an individual one-man affair. Everybody has a stake in our education system. And when issues come, it lies on those who are managing the education system to come and address us so that we know where we are going or heading towards. They will not do that. And I hope that going into the next administration, we wouldn't have managers of education who think they know it all and they do not owe any explanation to the people that have placed them there.
Very well, Doc. We'll leave it here for now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Indeed. Dr. Peter Anti is Executive Director of IFES. We hope that the Education Minister, who has extensive knowledge of education in other jurisdictions, will respond, perhaps just as he did with the WAEC issue, because we know if this was happening in a K-12 system, in a charter school system, in a K8, K5 system, somebody will be answering serious questions by now. This is Ghana Tonight. I'll be right back. Don't go away.
One bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint, superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior. 1 bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint, superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply
This is the reason why I love Ghana. Then the lottery aquarium paint here. You said Ghana and Nadim Kunim.
We are one. Ghana as one.
We are proud about Ghana. Sabaya 2 years now. Akos asundem ayen share how we are.
Africa and the rest of the world salute Ghana.
Don't forget the lottery aquarium paint. Send love. Love to all Ghanaians. The lottery aquarium paint.
This is Hot Issues, your passport to the most compelling conversations of our time. We go one-on-one with the movers and shakers, the thought leaders, and the game changers. We ask the questions that matter, and we don't back down.
Tonight on Hot Issues, I sit with the man at the Center of Corruption Investigations.
Join me on Hot Issues here on TV3.
Hot Issues shows Sundays at 2 p.m. on TV3.
TV3, first in news. This is Key Points, the #1 award-winning television news analysis program, providing an enlightened analysis of the key issues facing us as a country.
The Key Points of the stories that matter with the people who matter.
This is Key Points, the #1 award-winning television news analysis program. Every Saturday, 7 a.m. on TV3 and on 3FM 92.7. TV3, first in news.
This is the show that brings finality to all the critical issues. It is the stage where all the facts are checked, issues thoroughly interrogated, opinions shaped, and debates settled. But over here, we do more than just talk. We resolve problems. We hold those in power accountable. We address all the key happenings in society, from politics to health to education to everything you deem important. And we will center the voice of the ordinary Ghanaian. This is the show that sets the agenda.
Agenda shows Mondays at 9 p.m. on TV3.
TV3, first in news.
This is still Ghana Tonight live on TV3, also live on 392.7 FM. I'm Kemini Amano. If you just joined in as well, you missed a large chunk of the show, but we're still here with our very first episode for the 2025 year. Now, the NDC is preparing for inaugural ceremony, and tonight we look ahead at the list of events lined up for the investiture of John Dramani Mahama. Let's start off with that letter released from the quarters of the NDC's national office, signed by the General Secretary, Fifi Fiavi Kwete. It reads that on behalf of the Functional Executive Committee of the National Democratic Congress, warm congratulations are extended to all regional and constituency executives, as well as the entire membership of the party, for their tireless efforts that culminated in the historic victory in the 2024 general elections. The resounding victory, the letter says, of their flag bearer, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, to lead Ghana once again, is a testament to the collective commitment to deliver progress and prosperity to the nation. They go on to say that as preparations are underway for the swearing-in ceremony of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama as the President of the Republic of Ghana on 7th January 2025, the following program of activities have been outlined to ensure effective coordination and celebration across all constituencies. And I want to take you through that quickly just before we go into other matters. Between January 4th and 6th, 2025, there are a lot of things to happen, including the victory celebrations across all constituencies. The activities involved in those constituency-level victory celebrations will be announced or determined by the constituency executives. We also know that there will be a victory walk in Accra on the same January 4, 2025. Now, this is a Saturday. And if you remember, at the beginning of the program, I told you that that mandamus application in court will also be determined. The ruling on that case will be determined on January 4th, 2025. So while they are working, they'll keep an ear in court as well, I guess. On January 5th, 2025, Ghana Victory Concert. The location for that is the forecourt of the University of Ghana. It's still in the New Year mode, so if you have time, that is where the action will be. And then on January 7th, 2025, the presidential inauguration will all be at the Independence Square or the Black Star Square here in Accra. Remember that that event will be the beginning of a new era for this country when the NDC comes into government. And then I also want to remind you that as we have already shown you what we can do here on your election command center, the Media General Group will be with you from the beginning till the very end. Would reactivate our 24-hour coverage of events leading up to this event in Parliament on midnight, January 6th, right? When our new MPs are sworn in, when a speaker is chosen, when the swearing in of all the other things, the other offices also happen, and then the swearing in of the president on January 7th. Let's take a look at the NDC's activities. That was just to inform you that we have a list of activities right here at Media General also coming your way in terms of the coverage of the investiture. On January 10th, which will be the final activity to mark the NDC program of activities as they return to office, is the National Muslim Thanksgiving. The location is the National Mosque in Kanda and all mosques nationwide. So if you cannot come to the very beautiful mosque here in Kanda, you can go to the nearest mosque so that you can be a part of the National Thanksgiving event at the National Mosque. Then on January 12, 2025, there will also be a National Christian Thanksgiving service, given due where it's supposed to be. The location for that will be the Independence Square in Accra. If you're Christian or you'd want to join the Christian service, this one is for you. It will be on January 12, 2025, the National Christian Thanksgiving service. Remember, January 10th is the National Muslim Thanksgiving service, and then the Christian one will be 2 days after at the Independence Square. But, as it's my job, I do have a couple of questions, maybe just one, for the NDC. I hope that these list of activities that they plan to do, it is not symptomatic of the fact that they do not understand the depths of the expectations the Ghanaian people have when it comes to the new government. I hope you understand also the depths of the problem that we say that the current administration has caused us. We hope that you put your energies there as well. That'll be all for our very first episode of Ghana Tonight. I'm Kemini Amano. All the best to us in 2025. Happy New Year. Bye-bye.
Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.